Major escalation on Israel's northern border.
We felt really large explosions.
The biggest attacks between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon since the war in Gaza began.
Both sides can claim success and victory.
Where it all leaves a region on edge. The Prime Minister under pressure to make big changes.
See you all here in Halifax.
Why the Liberals may be looking south for inspiration. Bottles of gasoline lobbed at a BC home.
You have 3 days, we will kill you.
Another alleged extortion attempt targeting South Asian businesses.
Not everybody is willing to come out and speak its fear.
The Cross Canada investigation.
From CBC News, this is The National with Christine Barak.
Thank you for joining us. Ian is away. A new sense of uncertainty and concern is hanging over the Middle East tonight after Israel and Hezbollah exchanged strikes at a rate not seen since October 7th. Israel hit first, carrying out what it called a preemptive operation against weapons in Lebanon, saying the move was made to thwart a larger Hezbollah attack. But Hezbollah did still attack, saying it fired 320 rockets and drones into Israel, its leader calling the mission a success. Katie Nicholson now on how both sides are responding to this escalation and how it could impact the prospect of a wider war.
As sirens wailed, missiles arced over the Lebanon-Israeli border.
We felt really large explosions. We felt like an earthquake.
This Sunday morning volley of rockets, drones, and interceptions aimed at military targets, the largest between Hezbollah and Israel since the war in Gaza began. In Lebanon, at least 3 reported deaths. Israel says one of its soldiers was also killed. For Hezbollah, this was about retaliation, says its chief, after Israel killed one of its leaders in July during a strike inside Beirut. For its part, the Israeli military says its barrage was a preemptive maneuver to thwart a bigger attack from Hezbollah. After the smoke cleared, both got to claim a win.
By Israel saying we preemptively prevented a bigger attack, and Hezbollah saying we did our attack as planned, and Israel preemptive strike did not stop it, both sides can claim success and victory and move on.
Tensions continue to soar in the region, the U.S. keeping warships nearby just in case. On Sunday, still no breakthrough in the negotiations on the latest proposed ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel. It was hoped the deal might calm the wider region.
And they have already said that. Iran said that. Hezbollah said that if a ceasefire is reached and there is a cessation of hostilities in Gaza, they will automatically abide by that ceasefire.
It can't come soon enough for Gazans, now ordered to evacuate Al-Aqsa Hospital, one of the biggest still operating in Gaza. The sick, the wounded, among the thousands whose lives depend on a deal yet to be made. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem for us. Sasha, give us a sense of how people are feeling there tonight.
Well, Christine, things have been tense here for weeks, with Israelis expecting exactly the kind of rude awakening they got this morning. Air raid sirens in several parts of the country. That was followed by the closing of the airport for a while, beaches closed, and a declaration of emergency by the defense minister. Now, strangely enough, many Israelis have been getting used to that. What they are really concerned about is the incoming rockets from the north. That's something that people who live along the border with Lebanon have been putting up with for months now, including houses being hit and, in some cases, people being killed. There was a bit of an indication, though, today that just maybe neither side really wants an escalation to that point. Or, in the words of the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, that maybe people should just be able to relax for a while.
But Sasha, there is still fear of escalation on another front.
Yes, there is still a sense of fear here of an attack from Iran. Iran has threatened retaliation for a bombing in the middle of Tehran 3 weeks ago, which killed a senior Hamas commander. Now, Hezbollah and Iran are connected, but today's attack was all about Hezbollah and retaliation for an Israeli airstrike which killed one of its own commanders around that same time. Now, there is the possibility that if Hezbollah feels that it has succeeded in this retaliation, things may calm down along that border in the north. But most people aren't betting on that unless there's a ceasefire in the south. Christine?
Sasha Petrusik in Jerusalem for us tonight. And the United States is weighing in tonight from here in Canada. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in Halifax attending the Liberal cabinet retreat. He says a ceasefire deal is more urgent than ever.
It is incumbent on all parties in the region to work towards de-escalation and stability. And so we are feverishly working in Cairo as we speak with our team and the teams of the other mediators, as well as with the Israelis, to get to a ceasefire and hostage deal.
Sullivan is at the retreat to discuss U.S.-Canada relations, but likely top of the agenda for the Prime Minister is the party's struggles in the polls and the internal calls for change. Ashley Burke is in Halifax for us tonight. Ashley, what is the state of the party right now?
Christine, the Prime Minister and the Liberals continue to face the worst public opinion polling they've seen since Justin Trudeau became leader. And that hasn't changed all year. After a surprising by-election loss, some members of caucus say that they asked for big changes, but they haven't seen that happen yet. Now they want the Prime Minister and his cabinet to use their time here in Halifax to come up with a new path forward. The Liberal MPs we spoke to said that some want a major cabinet shuffle. Others are asking for new policies or for Trudeau to show some contrition for what's gone wrong. One MP said they still want a leadership change. Today, the housing minister said he's standing behind Trudeau.
See someone who committed to important priorities around reconciliation and climate change, which continue to be important for me and my community. So from my perspective, I'm going to keep working alongside with him as a good partner for my community, and we'll look forward to continuing to support him in the next election.
And Ashley, one of the issues on the agenda at this cabinet retreat is Canada's relationship with the U.S. What are we expecting to hear on that front?
Well, there was that surprise visit tonight by U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. He told us that he's here to have a strategic conversation at a critical time with Trudeau and his cabinet about the Middle East, Russia's war against Ukraine, and managing the challenges faced by China.
So this isn't about me coming up here for a particular specific ask or on a single issue. It's a mark of the seriousness with which we take staying on the same page with our Canadian counterparts at all levels. And for me to have this opportunity really, I think, genuinely is going to create good momentum as we head into a critical few months ahead.
Liberal MPs we spoke to say Trudeau is already looking to the Democrats for inspiration and trying to match their message of joy and optimism. But one Liberal MP said fatigue for the Prime Minister can't be cured with a smile, and that it will take a lot more than that to turn their political fortunes around. Christine?
Ashley, thank you. Ashley Burke in Halifax tonight. At the cabinet retreat, the Minister of Labour said his order to end work stoppages at both of Canada's major railway companies by imposing binding arbitration was a pro-worker move.
In fact, it's hard to remember a decision that was made more in the interest of Canadian workers when you think of shutdowns in potash mines, when you think of car plants running out of inventory. Those are major economic consequences, and they're also major consequences in terms of salaries for unionized workers across the country.
Transit authorities responsible for commuter trains like GO Transit in the Toronto area and West Coast Express in Metro Vancouver say services are expected to resume tomorrow. Both were shut down last week when work stoppages at CN and CP Kansas City briefly brought rail traffic across the country to a halt. Well, the head of the controversial messaging platform Telegram has been detained in France. Investigators are looking into allegations that Telegram is a haven for fraud, drug trafficking, terrorism, and more. Lisa Shing has the arrest and the debate it's triggered.
Founder and CEO Pavel Durov has defended his messaging platform Telegram for years.
Do you sleep well at night knowing terrorists use your platform?
And our right for privacy is more important than our fear of bad things happening, like terrorism.
Telegram did eventually ban terrorist activity, but its staunch refusal to cooperate with law enforcement led to the Russian-born billionaire's arrest late Saturday upon landing in a private jet near Paris. According to reports, his detention is related to an investigation into the lack of content moderation on the app and its role in enabling criminal activity, including child sex abuse material, cyber scams, and organized crime. In a statement, Telegram said it abides by EU laws and its moderation is within industry standards and constantly improving.
What is different with Telegram is that it's also a marketplace.
This journalist has used the platform in his investigations and says it doesn't operate like the others. It can be completely anonymous and has become an easy access version of the dark web.
That there are long-running operations that actually sell drugs, that sell child pornography via this platform. And we have not seen actually the platform take significant measures to curtail on these.
Since Russia's invasion on Ukraine, it has also become the main source of content from both sides of the war, though both governments heavily use it to espouse their politics. And now, Durov's arrest, also used by Russia.
The arrest of Pavel Durov means that there is no freedom of speech, that the freedom of speech in Europe is dead.
That sentiment echoed by ex-owner Elon Musk, who posted the details of Durov's arrest, sarcastically captioning it, "Check out this ad for the First Amendment." A long-standing debate resurfacing, where one draws the line when it comes to freedom of speech. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
German authorities say a 26-year-old man has turned himself in after a deadly stabbing rampage Friday. But as Sam Sampson explains, the investigation into what led to that horrific act is just beginning.
As bells ring through a city in shock, this sign asks the question so many have. Why? Stunned, completely stunned, and with the thought, this can't be happening, says this woman. The stabbings happened at a festival in Germany, meant to celebrate diversity, now canceled early. 2 men and a woman in their 50s and 60s are dead, 8 others wounded. Officials say a 26-year-old Syrian man turned himself in to police Saturday and confessed. The case has been handed over to federal investigators. The Islamic State terrorist group, also known as ISIS, took responsibility for the attack with no proof. They allege the attacker targeted Christians and acted to, quote, avenge Muslims in Palestine and everywhere. Officials say they believe the attacker acted on radical Islamic convictions, but they're still investigating if he's a member of the Islamic State.
For ISIS to claim responsibility is a bit duplicitous because, of course, ISIS interacts with a lot of these types of individuals. Very few of them move to action. And some of the people who move to action will have never had any sort of interaction with ISIS ideology.
The 26-year-old had applied for asylum in Germany in the past. Police now comb through trash at the refugee housing complex where he used to live. Since the attack, far-right groups in Germany have used it to push for stricter immigration policies and stronger deportation rules ahead of elections next month. On Sunday, they were met with counter-protesters who clashed with police.
It will put a lot of oxygen into this discourse in Germany, for sure.
Division, debate, now playing out alongside grief. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
A Montreal family caught in the middle of a gunfight is demanding answers tonight as the father remains in an intensive care unit.
We need to know why it was him. And he was a hero, yes, he was a hero. He saved the life of his kids.
3 weeks ago, the family was targeted in an attempted carjacking. Police exchanged fire with the suspect. The Abdullah family says their dad was shot 5 times trying to protect them. His son was also struck. They say getting information on the investigation or financial aid has been difficult.
It doesn't help at all that not only can I not solely focus on my father and my brother's well-being, I have to focus on filling out paperwork, on fighting for my rights, on repeating the story over and over.
The family has asked for an investigation into the actions by police, saying about 40 shots were fired. Investigators have not responded to CBC News. As for the suspect, he has been arrested and charged with attempted murder. Another frightening extortion attempt targeting a South Asian business owner in BC is pushing the issue back into the spotlight. As Yvette Brend explains, police are investigating who's behind the threats, and calls for more action are getting louder.
Caught on security camera, the suspect emerges from the dark and fires bottle after bottle at this BC home. The family inside wakes to the sound of glass shattering, the smell of gasoline.
We don't feel safe at all, at all.
Jazz Aurora says phone threats began last year, demands for cash, promises of violence.
You have 3 days, give us 3 days, we will kill you.
This is one example of dozens of extortion cases targeting South Asian businesses in several provinces. Serious enough, the RCMP formed a national team to support local investigations.
It's a complex situation because it involves organized criminal activity from outside of British Columbia, outside of the country, involving India.
Edmonton police have made several arrests in connection to arsons and drive-by shootings. In Ontario, Peel Regional Police launched a special unit that's arrested 13 people so far.
We take these incidents very seriously and will stop at nothing to arrest those who are terrorizing members of our community.
But so far, there's only been a few arrests in BC.
When somebody is receiving one of these extortion threats, that they report it to the police as soon as possible. They report the evidence. That's what police need. That's what's required.
More should be done.
This community leader believes many cases go unreported.
It's concerning because not everybody is willing to come out and speak about these as well. It's fear.
He worries the extortion will flourish if people pay the demands.
Feeding into this whole frenzy, and it is going to become even more, serious issue in the coming years if this is not quashed now.
Meaning the number of targets could grow with a simple phone call. Yvette Brend, CBC News, Vancouver.
More than 2 years into Russia's invasion, Ukrainians are finding new ways to support the front line.
It's a case from 155mm shell.
The business of selling war memorabilia and why sales are slowing. Plus, the new mode of transit for paramedics in Halifax.
2,000 PSI, which means we've got a full tank.
How e-bikes are helping emergency response on the city's busy waterfront. And the moment a Canadian was crowned world champion of air guitar. We're back in 2. Flash flooding in eastern Indonesia has left at least 13 people dead. Torrential rains triggered mudslides that swept away homes and buried others. More heavy rain is in the forecast. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is claiming his forces have advanced another 3 kilometers into Russia's Kursk region. We brought under our control 2 more settlements, Zelensky said. While Ukraine's Kursk incursion is reassuring to some Ukrainians and Western allies, it still hasn't stopped Russia's grinding advance in Ukraine's east. Russia is now barely 10 kilometers from the strategic town of Pokrovsk. Officials have ordered a mandatory evacuation, but many residents remain. As an eerie tension hangs over the town. Elsewhere in the region, Russian strikes killed civilians, including Ryan Evans, who was part of a team of Reuters journalists. Ukrainians also celebrated Independence Day this weekend. Near the Eastern Front, these soldiers marked it by prepping an explosive drone.
It's not like holiday, but I respect our independence too much because we pay big price for this.
Their focus on the enemy looming ever closer. And while the conflict rages on, Ukrainian civilians are finding creative ways to help the war effort. As Briar Stewart explains, one entrepreneur is raising money selling remnants from the battlefield.
In central Kyiv, in a shop selling outdoor gear, there's another type of merchandise for sale. The remnants of Russian weapons and a flag doubling as a doormat. These battlefield trophies are being sold to raise money for the front.
90% were got from during our offensive campaigns and when Russians were retreating.
Petro Shambarovsky received many of these items from troops. He makes risky trips to the front line to drop off supplies like drones, purchased with the money earned from selling war memorabilia, like this battered street sign from Bakhmut, or name patches.
But patches are still demanded, but it's very difficult to get it. One of the main reasons now we are defending, we are not attacking.
Shambarovsky, who volunteers, estimates that they've raised tens of thousands of dollars, including by selling to international collectors.
So if you're looking for an authentic piece of history, you're a collector.
This former UK paratrooper acts as a middleman. He has sent gear, including these Russian helmets, to try and sell.
It's got a bullet hole through the front there.
The team in Kyiv tries to get creative.
It's a case from 155mm shell.
They etched a picture of the strategically important Kursk bridge on the shell casing, but Shambarovsky says the appetite for war trophies has waned.
Most of the society here in Ukraine and in the West are exhausted and tired. Here we have more precious items.
Ukrainian soldiers took this train model as Russian troops moved into the city of Soledar. It's made of salt, a nod to the area's extensive salt mines.
You can take it, it's very heavy.
They won at least $10,000 for it. If there are no buyers, they have other plans.
And if we will not sell it, after victory, we will make a tequila party.
It's an aspirational goal that they hold on to, even as there are fewer war trophies to line these shelves. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Kyiv.
A tech tycoon in California is spending millions of dollars every year trying to reverse aging.
If you imagine how we're going to live in 20 years from now, that's what I'm doing today.
What this 47-year-old is doing to try to be 18 again. Plus, the warnings about loneliness as a public health threat.
So the way you know you feel lonely is it hurts.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world next. Baseball legend Babe Ruth's jersey sold for more than $24 million US at auction, a record price for a piece of sports memorabilia. Ruth wore the jersey when he made his famous called shot home run in Game 3 of the 1932 World Series. Ruth pointed to the outfield just before hitting the homer, the gesture interpreted by some as a prediction of where he would hit the ball. A new program in Halifax puts paramedics at the heart of the city's busy waterfront, ready to respond on e-bikes. Brett Ruskin went for a ride along and shows us how it's working.
2,000 PSI, which means we've got a full tank, so we're good to go for our day.
If you're ever hurt on the Halifax waterfront, it may not be an ambulance that comes to the rescue.
If you got a headache, chest pain, we got a lot of medications in there that we can use on almost any different emergency.
This new team of experienced paramedics patrol downtown tourist hotspots on rugged electric bikes.
You can get all the boost you need to get to a call up on Citadel Hill if you need to without sweating. I don't think you would want us to come and attend to you and drip sweat all over you.
The bike team launched this summer to provide extra help during the peak tourist season. Ambulances are still brought in for serious injuries. I asked what types of calls are most common.
Sometimes fall, soft tissue injuries, stuff like that.
And moments later, a tourist just nearby fell and twisted her ankle.
So 0 being no pain, 10 being the worst, you're about a 5 or a 6. Yeah.
The team treated the woman visiting from Ontario.
And one of the guys saw us and said, hey, do you want paramedics? Because it gives me that feeling that, it's probably not broken. It's probably what I thought. I can go on with my day and deal with that stuff. Yeah.
Then it was onto the bikes, picking up speed down hills, picking our way through dense crowds.
So this is kind of typical, just going around people, keeping an eye out? Yeah, it's when we're just kind of patrolling the waterfront, it's not, unless we're going to a call, it's not a quick thing.
This waterfront service doesn't take away from ambulance availability. The pilot project pays paramedics to work weekends on their days off.
And so the bike shift isn't something you dread. Is it something you look forward to? Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Once the tourism season wraps up here on the waterfront, they'll assess how best to expand the bike program for next year. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
Now let's break down the news shaping our world. A tech tycoon is pouring millions into his fight against aging.
I would take these roughly 64 pills.
Brian Johnson's mission? Don't die. Grueling workouts, fasting, and endless tests. His methods aren't for everyone.
I've become the most measured person in human history.
So is there something the rest of us can learn from this extreme one-man experiment? That's what Joanna Remiliotis went to find out. In a story that first aired last year, she shows us what the future of aging might look like.
It's a new era in aging, where the fountain of youth is less of a fantasy and more a promising reality. Mice are getting younger in labs. New drugs seem to stop the clock. The future seems ageless. But here in California, Brian Johnson is out to prove that future is already here, and he's it.
If you imagine how we're going to live in 20 years from now, that's what I'm doing today.
Buckle up, because what the 46-year-old tech tycoon is doing is out there. Johnson is spending $2 million a year to be 18 again. That includes blood transfusions from his teenage son and being hungry all the time. And nope, it's not crazy, he says. Quite the opposite.
And so in this moment in 2023, what is the genius move for the human race? What is a thing we can't see? And in my estimation, it's something just so, it's like dead simple, right in front of our face. Choose existence.
Existence, as far as he's concerned, there's no real end to it. Johnson gave us a tour of his modernist home equipped with a state-of-the-art clinic.
So this is a blueprint clinic. It changes all the time. So like you'd put this on your arm and like stamp it out. It tells the genes to behave in a more youthful state.
This is where a team of 30 experts are conducting his one-man experiment. Johnson calls it a blueprint for the rest of us.
A blueprint is an open scientific question of where are we with the fountain of youth. And to do that, I've become the most measured person in human history. And we use all this data about my body. We look at all the scientific evidence. We design a protocol to say we want to maximally slow my speed of aging and reverse aging damage. And then we share everything with everyone. 1.8, so even better than last time.
And he is a sharer, especially online.
It's 5:30 right now.
He wakes up at 5:30 a.m. after going to bed at 8:30.
This is just a very small demonstration.
Check out his pantry, not a cookie in sight.
I would take these roughly 64 pills.
That's just for the morning?
That's just the morning.
Johnson takes a ton of supplements, eats mostly grains and vegetables, and his last meal is before noon.
Keeping your leg straight.
He powers through daily exercises.
Yeah, just don't look at the red light directly.
And does a lot of skin treatments. None of it looks like fun, but he says he's never felt better, and he is proving age is just a number, or in his case, a bunch of them.
Where are you at with your age, your biological age?
My heart is 37, my diaphragm is 18, my left ear is 64. So some of my biological ages are in great shape, some are not. We're not in a situation where we've reversed my biological age by decades. But if you're looking at my DNA methylation patterns, which you cannot see with the naked eye, that's telling you that I'm aging slower than the average 10-year-old.
What does that mean in terms of lifespan or health span?
Okay, let's just say science allows me to age slower so that I get September, October, November, December for free. And so the key thing is you want to slow your speed of aging because as we move into the future, you could probably do better and better and better and better until we get to the point where 1 year of time passes and I stay the same age.
Okay, I think that's great. Thank you.
Okay, we have to admit, our heads were spinning a little after the interview. But we wondered, what can Johnson's extreme experiment and his data teach the rest of us, who, like us, still enjoy the occasional burger? We took that question to Dr. Leroy Hood, who lives in Seattle. Hood is pushing 85, but his biological age is 70, thanks in part to 200 push-ups and 100 sit-ups daily. The vigorous exercise keeps the renowned biologist young in mind and body. And that's good, because Hood says he's still got a lot of work to do.
How do you feel knowing that you've taken that many years off your chronological age?
You know, I'm delighted because I have a big project ahead of me that's going to take 15 to 20 years, so I'm going to be around to see the end of it. This gives you an idea.
Oh, wow.
That project is also about using data to transform health.
What do you take?
Okay. So, I mean...
What don't you take?
Hood takes supplements too. It's part of a customized wellness plan based on his genetic risk profile. And he wants to design a healthcare system that does that for everyone.
So really, you're looking for signals or warning signs before they become too difficult to treat.
That is exactly right, and we're utterly confident for most chronic diseases we'll be able to find those signals.
So when you look at the future, where do you see chronic disease or cancer, Alzheimer's? Do you see them gone?
When I look at the future, I see most chronic diseases absolutely gone.
It's extraordinary. Hood's vision is all about keeping people healthy until they die of very old age. To do it, he needs a lot of data, so he can build on the research he and his colleagues have already done.
So these are cold rooms and tissue culture rooms and things like that.
In the last 5 years, Hood and his team have tracked the medical information of nearly 5,000 people. Using genetic and other high-tech diagnostics, they helped boost their health and minimize their risk of future disease by making data-driven, personalized adjustments to their diets and other lifestyle factors. In one case, Hood and his team found a warning signal that prompted a woman to push her doctors for a colonoscopy.
Just as they started the colonoscopy, they ran into an enormous colon cancer. And the next day she was in surgery and had it out just before it metastasized. You know, data-driven health there said, gee, there's this signal that is something's really wrong. You've got to find out what it is.
Hood's studies have found nearly 200 signals of early disease, and he wants to find tens of thousands more. It's why he now wants to collect health data on 1 million people and use machine learning or AI to sift through it all. Hood says that means we could all have personalized guidelines for healthier living in the near future.
What it will give each of us is the ability for our health span, the number of years we live healthy, to equal our lifespan, which is the number of years we live. And the second thing it'll do is give most of us a guarantee we'll live with health spans out into the 90s or even into the hundreds.
So you don't think it's a fantasy to imagine living to be 100 in good health?
Not at all. And I only have 15 years to go, so we'll see.
In Hood's world, people could share their information on their phones. There are caveats. The data has to be protected, and more than anything, people have to be willing to share it. And that's what worries researchers at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, who question how representative any huge health data pool would actually be, because they haven't been able to pull it off.
Just put it over top of your nose like we've got something.
The team here is tracking 50,000 Canadians for 20 years for one of the world's most comprehensive studies on aging. Most of the participants are Caucasian, and that's typical of most health research.
So we'd collect lots of clinical data, social data, psychological data.
Parminder Raina is running the study. He says recruiting racialized communities is tough. He thinks AI-driven personalized healthcare has incredible potential, but not if diversity is missing.
Who's at risk of being left out?
I think that's a very important question that we have to address as a society. We have indigenous populations in this country on whom we don't have a lot of data. Our immigration patterns are changing rapidly. And if those people don't participate in research, if we don't have good data on those individuals, our AI models are not going to be able to address the needs of those populations.
Back in Venice Beach, the millionaire we came to meet isn't exactly hanging with the locals. He knows he's not the everyman, but Johnson says everyone can still learn something from his data.
So how accessible is it though? Because what you're doing is pretty extreme.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing is extreme and it's not accessible for most people. What I hope to achieve is with my data to be the evidence to say it's worth it. So for someone to look at me and say, you know what, I believe the data and I believe it is worth my time and attention to go after this. Even if I can't do all of it, I believe that the science is there to significantly extend our lifespans and be much more healthy.
Do you want to live forever?
Yeah. I want to have the option every day to live tomorrow.
And an update to Joanna's story. Brian Johnson turned 47 3 days ago, but on his social media, he wrote that due to the speed of his aging, he won't be celebrating his birthday until next March. Still to come, the health research warnings about the dangers of loneliness.
You can be connected, communicating with a lot of people, but not have a connection.
What one Toronto hospital is doing to help people in need. Loneliness is a growing global health concern.
So the way you know you feel lonely is it hurts.
The science is clear. Feeling alone and isolated can harm your health, no matter how old you are.
Lonely people have very distinct brain variations.
How researchers are starting to get a better understanding of how loneliness affects our bodies. It's an issue serious enough to prompt warnings from the World Health Organization. Last year, I looked into what's causing so much loneliness at a time when the world is more connected than ever.
A recent survey found roughly a quarter of people in the world say they're feeling lonely, even when surrounded by other people. Loneliness is a state of feeling you're at the edge of society, unable to easily talk or relate to others, and it can have huge implications.
The World Health Organization has declared loneliness a pressing public health threat across all age groups. Studies show it's as bad for you as smoking and obesity, raising your risk of anxiety, depression, heart disease, dementia, and early death. So why are people feeling so lonely, and what can be done to fix it?
You can be connected, communicating with a lot of people, but not have a connection. So the way you know you feel lonely is it hurts.
Dr. Jacques Lee is an emergency room doctor at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. He's seen firsthand the devastating impacts of social isolation, having too few social contacts, and loneliness on his patients during the pandemic. He's now studying ways to reconnect people, but adds it's not a new problem.
It was always there. It was there before COVID.
Scientists say the quality of our in-person interactions have been deteriorating for decades. Take this example. You probably remember a time when you picked up the phone and called someone to wish them happy birthday. Then, many of us switched to sending a text message. Now, it might just be a post on a social media wall that says HBD. Experts insist the quality of our interactions need to be more meaningful.
There's a huge long list of things that can work, you know? And I think what it is coming up with something that's easy to start, that's cost effective, and that's scalable.
I think they actually saved my life.
After a bad fall landed her in hospital, Elaine Daw was asked to take part in one of Dr. Lee's loneliness trials.
I was going down a very serious rabbit hole of depression, sadness.
In the years following a sudden job loss, Daw says she lost confidence in herself. A once vibrant life full of friends and gatherings slowly grew dark.
It just seemed I was running out of runway, and I was trying to deal with aging.
Then a box arrived from Making Art, Making Change, filled with supplies and an opportunity.
I'd never painted before.
It connected her with a group of other patients. A space to learn, laugh, and cry together.
I love you guys. I want you to know that you've brought a lot of joy into my life, really.
In their final session, Dr. Lee dropped in to say thanks.
I'm already excited to hear these testimonials.
At the same time, he's overseeing another study, which includes Andrew Taylor, a volunteer at Mount Sinai Hospital.
Hi, can I help you?
I'm trying to find how to get to the NICU.
Based on age and shared interests, Taylor's part of a trial connecting hospital volunteers with recently discharged patients.
Patients who are assigned to volunteers, such as myself, are given an iPad like this on loan with a preloaded app called A Touch Away. It makes it very easy for them to connect with us during the weekly video calls.
Taylor calls a patient at an agreed-upon time over 12 weeks to talk about everything from sports and cars to travel. The trial isn't over yet, but we asked Taylor, how's it going?
It's good, and to the point where I kind of wish it didn't end. I live alone too, and so I get as much out of it, I think, as some of the patients.
Scientists say that makes perfect sense.
Lonely people have very distinct brain variations compared to non-lonely people.
Kimia Shafke studies our brain on loneliness at McGill. Part of her research shows loneliness lights up default networks in the brain, often used to ruminate about people and the past and imagine social interactions.
Social interactions are at a core of who we are and what distinguishes us from other species. Our ability to work together and communicate and pass on knowledge is really intricate and very important to how we coexist.
Considering what's at stake, Dr. Lee says physicians need to start asking patients whether they feel lonely. He hopes results from his studies can one day offer new tools for combating loneliness.
If we don't treat an important social determinant of health, outcomes are going to be bad, and we're not going to be able to afford to take care of people.
Daw is now reconnecting with old friends and making new plans.
I came to the conclusion, and it took me 75 years, the conclusion that I am enough. It was the first time in my life.
Hello.
Hi, Eva. How are you today?
She says it's not always easy, but she now understands she's truly not alone.
I'm looking forward to talking to you and seeing how your life turned out.
While it seems older adults are more vulnerable to loneliness, that picture is actually changing. The latest survey in Canada showed nearly a quarter of those aged 15 to 24 said they often or always feel lonely. For seniors over 75, it was 14%. Up next, the Canadian crowned air guitar world champion. His thrilling performance in our moment. This is Zachary Knowles, also known as Ichabod Fame, rocking out at the 2024 Air Guitar World Championships in Finland. Knowles came in first place, beating out some pretty tough competition like Shred Lasso and Guitar Antula. Tonight, his epic performance makes our moment.
I don't believe it. I am the first Canadian to win at the World Air Guitar Championships. There was a grand total of around 30 to 40 top-tier performers from all around the world. And I guess only one person can win. The judges are looking for technical execution. Like, do you actually look like you're playing a guitar? They're looking for stage presence. They're looking for musicality, and they're looking for something they call airness, which is a sort of je ne sais quoi that I don't think I can easily explain, but if you watch, I think you can kind of see what we're talking about. I believe it is an invitation to be a little bit ridiculous, to be a little silly. Because come on, we can't take the act of pretending to play a guitar too seriously. When you bring that authenticity of just being like, I'm gonna be a little silly, a crowd can genuinely go, okay, me too.
Okay, this competition has been around for nearly 30 years. And you know what? They don't know what their second song is going to be, so they're figuring out their moves on the fly. Next stop, the Olympics. Just kidding, but it looks like fun. Thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the Nationals YouTube channel. I'm Christine Birak. Take care.